Familiarity.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast, Raw and Nerdy. I'm Rook, and as y'all remember, Archon, on our last episode, Archon's not going to be consistent for the next few weeks because it is the end of, well, it's the summer, and he has kids, and with how busy he is at work, he's going to focus on family for the summer and focus on work and get through all that. And if he has downtime, he'll jump in when he can. I expect him to be back within the next month or two. Until then, we'll have guests. And with us today is our lovely friend of the show, Rabbit.
Hey, guys.
So we are going to be talking about an interesting topic today that we've mentioned about how we keep going back to games and stuff. So we're going to be talking a bit about that. But I want to start with how Rabbit has got me into wanting to watch House of Dragons. I keep wanting to say Dance of Dragons, but that's not it. House of Dragons. I've watched first episode. I like it. So far, it is a good original story from HBO versus the ending to Game of Thrones. So I hope they can keep that going. All right. So question for you. How many games do you own?
Too many. A lot.
I know, right? Same here. I got a ton. We both have a lot of games, yet we seem to both be playing usually the same 2 or 3, maybe 4 games over and over and over again. So why do you think we keep going back? Why replay WoW or Baldur's Gate or Skyrim or Valheim or any of these other games? Why do another Mass Effect run? Why boot up Valheim and build another building? These are some really good questions. And that's going to be what we're talking about today. We are talking about what makes a game worth returning to that pulls us back time and time again. And I'm actually quite interested to see how this discussion goes. All right.
Yeah, same.
So if the video is a little choppy on Rabbit's end, it's because she is on her cell phone. So I'll do my best to clear it up, but we'll see what happens.
Thanks, bud.
All right. First question. Do you think we go back to games because they're good or because they're familiar?
I feel like it could be both, depending on the game and the mood,
Yeah.
I don't know. It changes depending on which game I go back to.
Yeah, I like to think of it more like certain games are comfort games, like certain TV shows are comfort shows. Like we already know what's going on, who does what happens, what the world's like. But I like to think that we go back to these games because they're our comfort food. And I mean, that's the best way to look at it, really.
Yeah, that's a good explanation.
Probably some people go back to them for nostalgia reasons. Like me, I go back to, so Breath of Fire is not the best Breath of Fire game, Breath of Fire 1. Breath of Fire 2 and 3 are way better. But I always find myself going back, not a lot, but every once in a while, I'll go back to one of those, to Breath of Fire specifically, because of the nostalgia. It's one of the very first video games I remember playing on the Super Nintendo. And I played it all the time with my mom. And then we beat it. And now I find myself going back to it here and there just because I really enjoy the game. It's fun. Very simplistic, but for a 7-year-old at the time, that was the best way to do it. And then sometimes I'll find myself seeing just how high of a level I can get in that game. But Lord of the Rings Online, I jump back into that one because that's where most of my guild members play. WoW, it's more your thing than mine. So why do you keep going back to WoW?
All these different aspects there are to play. I still haven't finished and gone through all the newer content that they keep adding. I like to go through it at my own pace to experience the story and the different aspects of the story. But there's always something different to do, like work on your profession. Sometimes I just want to sit there and fish. Other times I just want to do battle pets. And other times I just feel like doing arenas or battlegrounds. It's like they got a fix for every mood. And that's kind of what keeps me coming back to it, is there's always something to do.
Nice. Fishing in a video game. I never thought that would be as popular as it actually has become. Anytime Anytime a new MMO comes out, when do we get fishing? I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy that fishing is so popular. And yet you can't get the same people to actually go fishing in real life.
I know I've always wanted to go fishing, like IRL, but
I know, right?
I've never gone.
It's very relaxing if you don't get disgruntled for not catching any fish.
It seems really relaxing.
It is. It can be, depending upon where you're at and
Mm.
what's all around you. Because there are some campgrounds where if you go fishing, there's going to be like 20 people in the same area. But then, like, I have memories growing up fishing on a pier at 2 o'clock in the morning and
Oh.
nobody else around. And it was just peaceful.
Does sound really nice, honestly.
Mhm.
Wow.
And a lot of times I'm not paying attention because we'd fish for catfish, which are bottom feeders. So we would just drop it, let the currents take whatever bait we have on the hook and move it around. And we would sit there and just chill, talk, relax, listen to the waves, whatever you wanted to do.
Does sound nice.
I know, right?
Yeah.
All right. Question 2. When you replay a game, are you replaying the game or replaying the feeling that it gave you? And because of how that question sounds, I will give you some examples. Are you returning to be a Jedi or to be the galactic hero or to be a dragonborn or what have you? Um, like Knights of the Old Republic, I play it because it's one of the few games that is D&D based that feels like I'm actually the character, so I feel like I am a Jedi when I become one.
Right.
The being the hero of the stories, I want to say, in my opinion, when I'm replaying a game, I'm trying to replay it because I want to feel like I'm the person that matters in that game. I want to feel like I'm the one that everybody relies on being or be that Jedi. Hell, sometimes I'll jump into Star Wars Galaxies, which has been shut down since 2011, and I'll play on one of the Legend servers and I'll be like, all right, cool. I'll try recreating my character from the official servers, which I can't do because I earned the Jedi the hard way before it became just a playable class. And I will try just being that class, just
Oh,
being that character. What's your
that's
thoughts?
interesting. I mean, I like that. That's really it's a whole different perspective because that's so different than like the reasons I have for going back to games.
Hmm.
There's a lot of times where we'll see like for example The Last of Us, it's like a beatable game you can play, and Final Fantasy X, another beatable game you can play over and over. And I play, like, for the most part I play a dude in that game, so it's hard for me to get like immersed in it as like that's my role. So I don't feel like I'm the main character of the game. I feel more like I get to be part of watching their story, or I get to be a part of um, their crew or whatever, and I get to watch this epic story kind of play out. Kind of like, I don't know, I feel like The Last of Us was more of a cinematic experience because it was like such a great story.
Hmm.
So was Final Fantasy X. I love the story, and I feel like you get to kind of watch it and keep it alive while you're playing it, not as the main character, I guess, but just keeping that world alive, I suppose. And it's kind of like when
Play,
it's tough to end a book,
yeah, playing to be the hero. So I found myself thinking this just now because I didn't think about it when I was typing the question. And I was reading the Prometheus novels, Star Trek Prometheus novels, that trilogy. I was reading it, and every time I was reading it, I always found myself wanting to jump back into Star Trek Online because I could be the captain of my ship. I have a Prometheus class ship. I could fly it around and be the captain of that ship and do all the things I want to do. Granted, the game's limiting because I can't really be the captain. But I always found myself jumping back into the game because I wanted to live in that universe, or I wanted to be the captain of my ship and actually try doing all these things. So yeah, there's plenty of reasons as to why we would jump back into a game, replay a game, just to get that feeling it gives you. Question 3. This one should be interesting. Have you ever realized that video games and areas in video games more than you do real cities?
Yes. Hate to admit that.
Yeah, I can tell you a lot about certain areas and different games, a bit about Coruscant and Star Wars: The Old Republic. I can tell you a little bit about the different planets you have to go to. I know the nooks and crannies where I need to go. I know what kind of bosses or enemies I want to fight in those areas. But then I sit there and I'm like, counterpoint. What about the people who know LA and most of the layout of Los Angeles because of Grand Theft Auto 5?
Oh, there's probably a lot now, huh?
Yeah. Now, I was watching a reel on Instagram and it just made me laugh because there's this guy driving this woman. He comes up to this area. I was like, no, we don't need this. Turns off GPS. And she's like, what? You don't know where we are. You've never been here. I know exactly where we're going. And starts driving around like he knows the place because he saw it so often in GTA 5.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. I feel like I live more in some universes than I do in my own neighborhood. I that was kind of shameful to admit.
Oh, yeah. How well do you know? Because when I first met you, you were heavily into WoW. It's like you were reading the books, you were playing the game. How well do you know Orgrimmar?
Like the back of my hand in every expansion when it was changed and when it was upgraded, when it got sacked. I know like a lot of the names of the vendors even.
Yeah, I've played games that have remakes and or remasters, not remakes, but just the remaster of a game. And sometimes the music won't sound the same. I'll go into an area and I'm like, I know this area really well, but that doesn't sound right. It's amazing how much sound affects what you remember about those areas too.
It's true. That's a good point.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, there are games. What's the one I've played the most? Lord of the Rings Online is one I'm playing the most right now, but I don't know a lot of the cities as well as I should. My bad. Because
Yet.
they're not major points you have to go to all the time. There's
Oh,
a series of quests there to get you what you need. If I wanted to, I could go to Bree. Bree and Lord of the Rings Online is like the central hub for a lot of areas in the beginning stages of the game, and then you get more stuff going on in once you get through Moria. I haven't gotten all the way through Moria yet, so we'll see what happens after I get through there.
ooh,
But Bree
exciting.
is like a major hub. Every weekend, every Saturday, you'll see a bunch of people playing musical instruments out in there's some guilds that are nothing but bands, for a simpler term, and they just go and play music. That's all they do. They'll log in on a Saturday and they'll go and just start playing music. Unlike Star Wars Galaxies, where watching an entertainer or watching some band members playing music actually gives you buffs, Lord of the Rings sadly doesn't do that. I wish it would because then it would be a cool aspect to the game, but it's cool watching all the people just run up into this area by the Prancing Pony and just start playing music and then everybody just starts dancing.
It's awesome. That's like kind of how my daughter plays World of Warcraft. She only she will only go to Goldshire. She makes like 100 characters and she never levels them up, but she'll go to Goldshire just to like hang out at the bar there and like mingle with the country folk. That's all she'll do.
Nice. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's all sorts of reasons why you would know a game better than some real cities. I know less about the cities I live in than I do about the ship of the Normandy or any of my Federation starships or even Halo, the Rings of Halo. It's just weird how that happens.
It's like which one do you keep going back to and spend the most time in?
The game I've spent the most time in. Okay, I'm gonna add something to this because it keeps bringing me back as well. Starfield. I know more about New Atlantis and Aquila City than I do about Burleson, Texas, or Lancaster, California.
Oh, well, how much time have you spent there? That's the big question.
Well, I live in Burleson, Texas.
Mhm.
I've spent only 1,000 hours in Starfield. So
Only, but have you spent that much time like exploring your streets and stuff out there? in the
No,
neighborhood?
that's actually a very valid point. We spend more time exploring in a video game than we do in real life. Now, I can't say the same about Skyrim because I don't play Skyrim a ton. So I can't tell you everything there is to know about all the major cities in Skyrim, but I can tell you everything you need to know about New Atlantis or Aquila City and a little bit about Neon. But the game that has the most hours for me is Elite Dangerous, and I can tell you everything you need to know about my ship, and that's it. Because I am right now, my ship's out in the black. I'm outside the bubble, just exploring, flying to different planets and exploring. And as many of our listeners might have known, Elite Dangerous is a 1-to-1 scale replica of our Milky Way galaxy with all 400 billion stars. It's all procedurally generated, and then you can't land on any planets that have atmosphere. So I'm spending a lot of time just flying around and exploring a lot of stuff than I am on any base or anything. So really, I don't know a lot about cities and stuff in that game. I know more about my ship because I'm jumping all over the place.
That makes sense.
But I can tell you at what speed I need to be landing at in certain G-gravity planets. And then there's people out there that can tell you what engineers right off the bat you need to go see right away and how to get there without getting jumped by gankers because they play it so often. I know people who have more time than in Starfield, which came out in 2024, than I do in Elite Dangerous. That's crazy.
That's awesome.
All right. So we had this discussion multiple times last night. How many times have you restarted a game because you wanted to try a different build?
Well, it's different with some games, but like with Baldur's Gate, I've restarted it a couple times and there were like twice where I got pretty far because I was enjoying the build and all the stuff that you can do. Like
Mm-hmm.
my first run through was as a wizard and made it to Act 3 and I don't know, I just wasn't totally feeling it. And then I played it again as a hunter, and I was really enjoying that. Like, I don't know, there was just the mechanics were just I found more enjoyable. I felt kind of like a beast running through it, honestly, and that made it a lot more enjoyable. So I don't know. And then there's World of Warcraft where I've started over multiple times, but it was mostly just to kind of get different aspects of the story from different races
Mm-hmm.
and experience that and try my hand at a couple different builds that I haven't tried before. Like my first run through with the warrior, I fell in love with it. There's just the hack and slash aspect of going through it just is so invigorating. and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that made it a lot more fun, and I don't know, gave me a whole different, I don't know, breath of life in me, I suppose. So I don't know, like, yeah, multiple times. If you can make a different build, it's like a whole different way of experiencing the game, and I really like that aspect of being able to, change up your character's class and their whole build.
Yeah, that's one thing that brings me back to some games is uh some games where it actually reflects your new class and your new race and all that. That's awesome. Me personally, we'll do Baldur's Gate as well. Let's see, how many characters do I have? On this PC my gaming PC, I have a Dragonborn monk, a Elven Ranger, a Gloomstalker, I think is what he's going after. And I think my Paladin. Then I have a different Paladin build and a different Assassin build and a different other character build on my laptop. And then on my PlayStation, I have 3 other builds.
Do you have one that you enjoyed the most?
That's the thing. I like each one for different reasons. I have a build where I want to say it's my Paladin build where I'm turning Gale into keeping him as a wizard, but I took 1 level of White Dragonborn, so he gets armor of something. I forgot what it's called. So he's a white dragon, a dragon blood sorcerer with white dragon heritage that gives him that spell. Then he also is an I hate that word. Let me Google this word real quick. Abjuration builds, because they get so many things. They make really good tanks. So I'm trying that. And then that same playthrough, I have Shadowheart as a light cleric because she AoEs everything really well. So this is my favorite one because each of my characters I am trying a different build on, and I'm actually really focusing on their class builds and making sure they fit. And Dragon Baldur's Gate's one of those games, no matter how you build your character, certain things are different based on your class or your race. And they not as heavily as some other games I've played. Mass Effect, there are some things where I've played it multiple times for multiple different ways just so I could actually see what's different with things. Skyrim is notorious for this. I've played Skyrim as let's see, Rook 1, Kaylin, Sadie, Rook 2, and a couple of others, just because I wanted to see how the backstory that you pick affects your playthrough of the game. So I've done that just to see what changes when you're this backstory or when you're this background or when you're this background. Those who have watched our Starfield Raw know that Kaylin is a soldier background. And I was expecting more soldier interactions during dialogue during the Aquila City quest, the Freestar Collective quest line, because it has to do with that. It has to do with the after effects of war and those who were raised in war and got good at war. And those leaders who lost a lot during the war. But there was very little soldier dialogue, which kind of let me down a little bit. But there are reasons. Those are some of the reasons why I do jump different multiple times into a game, because I do want to see, hey, if I'm playing this, what happens here? If I'm playing this, what happens here? Mass Effect is another one. Mass Effect, I'll play that a lot, and I'll jump into Mass Effect, and I'll be like, all right, cool, let's do this. I'll play it one way, and then I'll jump in, play it another way. The hardest way I found to play Mass Effect is playing as a renegade, because that goes against my natural nature, so I actually have to force myself to roleplay a dick. But Lord of the Rings Online, that one's more straightforward. I just run it for different builds because I have a lore master whose whole job is to be my crafter for certain items. Eventually for almost everything. I have my streaming character, and then I'm working on a guardian right now, but I have several other characters. I still have my very first character, which when I took a hiatus away from Lord of the Rings Online, I jumped into another game, or I jumped back into the game, and it was like, I don't remember where I'm at in the story. I don't remember anything about the character. I'm going to start a new character. And then I started a new character, and then I started a new character. So I have multiple characters just because I wanted to try different classes, see which ones I liked better. And so far, I like the Ranger and Champion the best. Those are my primary characters. Guardian's turning out to be a fun character. But I find myself making, in games that have different ways of playing the game, I will make different characters just to explore the different ways and the different choices you can make.
Yeah, I really appreciate that when they throw that in there. It really adds to that replay value of a game because you can get a little bit more story out of each playthrough in a slightly different aspect, and that I like having the a more well-rounded storyline, to go through a game, especially if it's a great story and a good universe that you're really into. And it kind of, I don't know, I love learning more, like each playthrough. I like being able to do that. And I love it when games add that little aspect in there, and you can get different dialogue if you're a different race or something. I love that.
Yeah. And all this discussion is leading into our next two questions, by the way. But those are awesome. The next question is going to be, are we actually trying to replay the game, or are we trying to replay the very first feeling of the very first time playing it? For example, the first time you make these big discoveries, or the first time you get the jump scare or this surprise twist that you weren't expecting. Or when you find out character is just someone's imagination.
Again, I feel like it's different from game to game. I don't know. Give me a few examples of yours.
So there are times where I will play a game trying to relive Breath of Fire when you first get the power to turn into a dragon. That is actually a powerful moment in the game because first time because in Breath of Fire, in a fight, you can use magic points to turn into a dragon once you unlock that ability, and you stay the dragon the entire fight. I enjoyed turning into the dragon for the very first time because it made me feel powerful, and I was a 7-year-old kid.
Mm.
Now I'm an adult, so it doesn't have the same effect. So I had to go into the game realizing that I already know what's going on. I know I'm not going to find anything new in this game. Starfield, I will play it and I will still play the story, even though I know the discoveries that I'm going to come across. But there's so much in that game that to replay, I will replay the game to actually replay the game because there's so much going on in those games that there's multiple different stories, multiple different things to discover. So, I mean, you're talking about games that have discoveries where plot twist, this thing happens. Or, hey, I went through Mass Effect the very first time and I made some decisions and I lost a couple of members of my crew that were no longer available in further storyline. Then I played again before ever looking it up online, made some other decisions, and everybody survived. So there are some times where replaying, you still get the feeling of first time playing it because your decisions actually matter and change how things go. So things like
Yeah.
that is what I'm talking about is, are you chasing it to try to get those first discoveries again, or those first surprises, or those first emotional moments, or finding new ones you didn't know existed because it was your first time playing the game?
A tough question. Because like there's a couple games that are beatable that I do keep going back to. For example, The Last of Us and like Final Fantasy X. Those ones I can beat and play over and over and over, even knowing I'm probably not going to find anything new anymore. I think I discovered everything and collected everything you can get in there. But I just love the story. I love keeping the story kind of alive in a way. I'll only play the first one over because I don't want to live without Joel in part two. I can't do part two. I've played through it once and I can't do it again because I can't stand losing Joel. And I mean, it's still a great story. I still love the story, but I keep replaying part one just because it's like, I don't want the story to end. I want to keep going through it again and keep it alive. And I feel like it's kind of similar with Final Fantasy X as well. But then there's other games that I play that like aren't really beatable, and I keep going back to, like Valheim, for example. And it's mostly because I think it's what I want to do in real life, I suppose. Like I would rather be out, in the woods exploring, building a cabin in the middle of nowhere and finding my favorite terrain and building something out there. And that's what I would rather be doing most of the time. And so that's what keeps me going back to that one. I don't need to find anything new. I just sometimes get the creative itch to build.
So in most cases, you're replaying the game to replay the game because you already know everything. You've already done everything in the game.
I guess so. Yeah.
Well, this also ties in with our next question is because we've already beaten a lot of these games and already know the stories, what's a game that got better after you already knew the story? And things I tend to notice when I play games I've already beaten is I'll actually start noticing, oh, they were already foretelling this is going to happen at this point. Or, oh, I didn't see this thing was here because I was so focused on what I needed to do over here, and that I was under this false impression I had to get done fast. So I didn't realize there's a whole bunch of stuff in this room that I can explore, or all this lore in this room that I never checked out. And stuff like that.
Hindsight.
Yeah, it's stuff like that you notice after you've already beaten it and you're not having to pay attention to the story, but you can actually now pay attention to what's going on around you in the game.
That's a good point. Yeah, that
Mhm.
that hindsight aspect is kind of nice going through it again. Um, Even if you can't really change anything, you might be able to catch something you didn't before. And I do like that because that's true. You can probably notice something or catch something that
Mhm.
was like a foreshadowing moment.
I mean, the best example of any of this I can think of is Skyrim. And the reason why is everybody knows Skyrim's an old game, but there's people that were out there and still out there finding Easter eggs because they already know the story of the game. They already know what's going on in the game. They're just running around exploring the entire world just to find all these random Easter eggs. And they're finding all these Easter eggs that are just now being found in the past few years versus back when the game was released in 2010. And it's like, that's
That's
amazing.
impressive.
Yeah. And that's how you know that game's just drawing people back into it because there's stuff still to find. And I think in a lot of cases, once you've know the story of a game, they get better in certain aspects because you don't have to focus on the story. You don't have to focus on beating the game. You know how much time you got until you need to do the next part. It makes it so much more entertaining because then you don't feel there are some games out there that'll make you feel like you really got to rush through this part because the way the dialogue went turns
Mhm.
around, you had no time limit. You could have just sat there and done everything else first.
That's true. That's true.
So let's roll on to our next question. And this is going to be a good one. So, what's the difference between a game you finish and a game you return to for 10 years? In other words, when it says finish, it's talking more like you don't pick it up again. You beat it and then you're done with it. Why do some games never call us back?
So deep. I feel like
Hmm.
again, it's different with each game because each game has a different kind of replay value for me.
Hmm.
Uh, there's a different reason that's got me to come back, and there's like different reasons why I've dropped certain games, why I just couldn't get back into them again. Some of them are great stories, but I just don't feel the need to revisit it. It's like, okay, I've been there, I've done that. Great game, but I'm over it. I don't really feel the need. Um, um, and then there's some that are just, I don't know. I don't know why I haven't finished Baldur's Gate. I don't, I don't know why I haven't finished that one. I love the game. I just can't seem to get through it for some reason. And I don't know. It's like I don't know. It feels different versus like a game that I keep going back to, like World of Warcraft, for example. I've been playing since 2007, and even still, I feel like there's something I want to do in it. One aspect or another that's still going that I feel like doing throughout the day, no matter what my mood is. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it varies. It varies from game to game. It depends.
So for me, there are a few games that I've played that I've beat and that I've never gone back to. I'm trying to think of some off the top of my head. If I don't remember a game, it's usually because I beat it and I was like, meh. Driver 3 is probably one of them. I played through the game, thought it was interesting at the time, but once I beat it, I was like, I'm don't really see the need to play it again because the story, it was a decent game. The story wasn't really a replayable story. The mechanics were simple. There's a lot of other reasons why players choose to not go back to a game. And it's not to say that the games are bad. There are some good games out there that just don't have replayability. And that's what every company strives for is make a game that's replayable over and over and over again. That way when they come out with part 2, you'll want to pick it up right away. Halo is a game where I can come back to. I know the nooks and crannies. I know what's going to happen. I know if I play it on the hardest difficulty, I won't die a lot. But I still come back to it because to me, it has replayability. But Driver 3, I'm not going to go back to it because I beat it. There's plenty of other driving games out there. And there's other games where I can be a cop as well. So it also has to do with a game just not good enough for replayability with the saturated market.
Interesting.
That I just gave you the examples. With Driver 3. Driver 3,
Okay.
you're a cop, but it's a GTA clone where you're a cop driving around. And the story is simplistic. It's an interesting concept. Spoiler alert, When you wake up from your coma, you realize your whole game was taking place in your mind while you were in a coma. But there's so many other games like that. GTA, you have there's a mod to GTA on PC you can play where you are cops and other people are just driving around, and it's a real world simulation pretty much. There's games out there where Saints Row, I can go play that game. There's some other games out there where you can pull people over. There certain games just have a saturated market. Games that pull me in typically don't have a lot in the way of what I'm looking for. So, Lord of the Rings, there are some console games, stuff like that, that are out there for Lord of the Rings, but none of them let me experience a game based on the books like Lord of the Rings Online does. Knights of the Old Republic. There's not a lot of games that give me the customization to play a character the way I want to, the way Knights of the Old Republic does in the Star Wars universe. Star Trek Online. There is only one Star Trek MMO that lets me fly my ship around. There are aspects of that game they can improve upon that would make it the best Star Trek game ever, more so than it already is. But to me, that's not a saturated market. There's a lot of storytelling games. There are a lot of older games, but when it comes to more recent games, there's not a lot out there that does what Star Trek Online does. There's a reason why it's been around since 2011. So 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. So games that don't have a highly saturated market or have a really good story, those help people come back. Games that operate in a saturated market don't have the replayability, in my opinion. Especially if you're trying to compete with games that already exist and are already huge. And then some games that just play because I'm bored and I need something to do. I'll pick up a game, be like, all right, I'm bored. I'm going to play on my phone for a bit. Oh, it's cool. A game. Yeah, I deleted it off my phone, been 10 minutes because it's not it was just there to keep me entertained for a while. Then you got games where it gives you a really incredible experience, but then you're not really going to jump back into it. So these are my reasons why some of the games just never call us back. And the biggest ones are you're in a heavily saturated market, or you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again in each of your games. So it's things
That's
like
interesting.
that. Mm-hmm.
I think there's I think the Resident Evil franchise kind of, breaks that down for me on a level because there's some where that do just feel a little bit repetitive much and I mostly just beat them for getting another aspect of the story, but there's there's a couple in there like the third Resident Evil and the fifth one that I can keep playing over and over again. I love those ones in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't I don't know. I think they just did it very well. I don't like the remastered version of Resident Evil 3. I'm talking about the original Resident Evil 3. It's very, very different. You get a very different vibe, even though I think they did a pretty good job remastering the third one.
Yeah.
They did decent. I'm not trying to knock it or anything. It was a great game, but there is just nothing like the kind of freaked out that I would get when Nemesis would break through all of a sudden. Even when you knew, he was going to come out at a certain point, it still scared the crap out of me every time. And they just did that so well back in the day. I think they did it better back then than however they try to recreate it nowadays. It just doesn't have the same kind of scare factor for me as it did back in the day.
That gives me a question I want to ask you.
Hmm.
So is it the game, it just doesn't have the scare factor? Or you just grown as you've aged, you've understood how to tell what's coming?
Like I can tell what's coming still, like in the original game, like I always knew what corner he was going to pop out in, like what
Mhm.
scene he was going to come out, but it didn't matter. It still scared the crap out of me every single time he popped out and started chasing you. And to this day, he's like the scariest bad guy for me that I'm still afraid of. And I think he's scarier in the original third than in the remastered third version, even though he's still scary in the remastered version. It's still kind of adrenaline pumping when you play through it, but
Mhm.
it's just not the same scare factor. I think, some horror movies even did it better back in the day than they're able to do it now. I don't know what it is. Some 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 games just had it. They just got it right, and you can't really recreate that in any way. And I don't know if they've gotten to the fifth Resident Evil, if they've remastered that yet. I know they did the fourth one.
I think
I
the
was
fourth one was the last one they remastered.
Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to if they did remaster the fifth one. I did enjoy the fourth remastered more so than the original Resident Evil 4, just because the controls back then were really difficult and really kind of blocky, and I had a lot of trouble with mobility in the original Resident Evil 4. But with the remastered one, it was much more smooth, and I really appreciated that aspect and them trying to stick to keeping a lot of the things the same. I don't like it when they change too much.
All right, so Resident Evil 1 was remastered. 2 and 3 were remade from the ground up, and 4 is a remaster, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed a lot of the similarities. I like it when they keep something from the original. Like even if it's a camera angle, like in Silent Hill 2, for example, there's a specific camera angle that they do when they go up high and you're looking downward. And it's in the very beginning of the game, one of the first like alleyways you go down, and it's a really creepy camera angle, and I really appreciate them adding that in the remastered version.
I misspoke. So let's see. Resident Evil was remastered. Resident Evil 0 was a remaster. 2, 3, and 4 were actually remakes from the ground up, with 4 being an upgraded port of the 2005 game. And then Resident Evil 5 was remastered in 1080p for modern consoles, and Resident Evil 6 was also given the 1080p treatment.
Nice.
Yeah. So there we go. Now we
Okay.
got that figured out. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that helps.
there are some games when they remaster them, you don't play it back again because of the reason you said. Now, so you've been hearing us talking about all of this. I want to know what the audience thinks. What's the one game that you've returned to more than any other, and why? Now that I've asked that to the audience, I'm asking that to you.
Me, my most returned to game over time has definitely been World of Warcraft. I
Of
mean,
course.
I've been playing since 2007, been reading the books, and I still feel like I learned something new from the story. Like, for example, I can't stand Alliance. I much rather would slaughter them on the battlefield. But I will go and play like an Alliance character just because you get a different aspect of the story from their side, especially from like race to race. You get totally different aspects of the story. And I love having a more well-rounded knowledge of the whole storyline, as a whole.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I love that, just learning something new about it. And I just want to expand my knowledge on the lore. And I like being able to do that. That's what makes me want to go back for more. And the fact that there's always so much you can do. There's so many different aspects. If I feel like Pokemon battle itch, I'll go, do my battle pets or, or whatever, then there's arenas. And if I feel like PvP, and there's so many different aspects if I want to chill or if I'm looking for that adrenaline rush. And so that's what keeps me going back, is the multiple different aspects of World of Warcraft that you can dive into. No matter what your mood is, you can find something to do for that particular itch.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
About you?
For me, it's going to be Lord of the Rings. I find myself in recent years just going back to that game over and over. Occasionally, I'll jump into other games like Star Trek Online and whatnot. But in recent years, it's been Lord of the Rings just because I have never beaten the game. I've never gotten anybody at a high enough level to do the new end game content. Heck, it was only a few months ago, that I actually beat the original end game content from when it originally released. So
No way.
yeah, so I'm getting back into that game. But before Lord of the Rings, it was always either Star Trek Online or Elite Dangerous. I would just jump into one of those. Elite Dangerous, because it's just can be mind numbing when you're exploring. So I just jump in and just fly around There's just so much I could do in that game, minus, and especially since they did the Odyssey update, being able to get out of the ship, run around on foot and stuff. What's some other games that I find myself jumping back into? Yeah, I think right now, Lord of the Rings Online is one I keep finding myself returning to. If I get bored and I can't figure out a game I want to play, I boot it up and start jumping into it. So it'll
What
be
about for exploration mode when you get that kind of an itch? What do you usually play?
if I get an itch and I want to jump back into a game for exploring, it's usually right now it will be Starfield, but I've been itching to get back in behind the sticks for Elite Dangerous, see what they've been adding back in there. But lately, for just an exploration itch, either just finish exploring a whole region for Lord of the Rings Online, or I will just jump into Starfield and explore planets because there's a lot of them. And
Yeah,
Elite Dangerous, it gets boring exploring some planets because you can't land on planets with atmospheres as far as I'm aware of at this point in time.
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know the reason behind it, but that's the case.
Okay.
All right. So the final question of the show, why do you think we keep coming back? And this is a personal question, not any analytical answers allowed.
Okay. Why do we keep coming back to what?
To any of the games that we constantly keep coming back to, we've talked about all these reasons as to what draws us back to a game.
Uh-huh.
On a personal level, is the story of the game the main reason you keep coming back, or is there a more substantial reason that you keep coming back to certain games?
I think it really depends. Like I'll go back to The Last of Us just for the story itself. And then there's Valheim where I keep going back there just because that's where I'd rather be, IRL. I would rather be out in the woods, building my own cabin somewhere. And
That would be nice.
About you?
For me, I keep jumping back into the Lord of the Rings because when I'm playing my characters, I feel like I'm living those characters. And so I feel like I'm living in the Lord of the Rings world or universe. Even if I'm limited on not my answers, but what I can respond to in games, that it's a set story and all that. What I do outside of the stories is my own thing. I don't have to answer to any major quest line or anything. I can just go if I want to go slaughter a bunch of birds, I can go do that. If I want to go help all the dwarves in this city with whatever they need, I can go do that. But I feel like I'm living my characters when I play those games. For Star Trek Online, it's always because I wish it was more in depth. I wish I could live in the Star Trek universe as a character other than a captain. There is no game out there that does that as far as I know. That's not a tabletop RPG. So I would love a game where I can do that, but Star Trek Online is the closest I'm going to get. And some of the stories are actually well written and are fun to explore in. It's just there's certain aspects of the game that pull me out of it, and I'll take a little bit of a break from the game here and there. But it always pulls me back in because it's the only game where I can actually be a captain of a starship. Um,
Yeah.
Elite Dangerous pulls me back in because if I'm ever in that itch to be a deep space explorer, it gives me that opportunity. I can just fly around and explore and feel like if I could in real life explore, it would probably be a deep space explorer on a ship because I feel more comfortable flying out in the black and exploring a planet and learning everything I can about it, and then coming back and giving all that data that I just found to people.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
That is more what I wish I could be doing. Part of the reason I'll do that instead of Star Trek because I can jump into the game and explore. Star Trek doesn't have that. Lord of the Rings has that to some extent, but it's not a space exploration. I'm just running around. If I could live in the world of Lord of the Rings, I would do it. But I'd be afraid. Very, very afraid.
I wish there was a game like that that I could immerse myself into in the Game of Thrones universe, honestly. I would love to get more immersed in that universe in like an MMO aspect. Um, MMORPG is
Yeah.
I would love to just, get out there and explore all the kingdoms myself and at my pace.
Mhm. All righty. So if I think we're at the point where we're going to start wrapping this up. I thought we were going to be a very short episode with how fast we were flying through the first questions, but these last questions had a lot more dives into them. All right. So if you're listening to this on podcast form, please give us 5 stars, leave a comment, whatever you want to do. Just leave 5 stars. It helps us out. If you're watching this on YouTube, click that like and subscribe down below. Hit us up. It'll help us with the algorithm. It also helps us match up with other content creators to help make our podcast better. I like doing this. I want to keep doing this. So please. And if you want to chat, just to hit us up, even Rabbit's there occasionally. Hit us up on our Discord, discord.gg/raw podcast. It's also linked in the description below. We'd love to talk with you. It's a really welcoming community. Yeah, I don't think I'm missing anything. So I would like to personally thank Rabbit for joining us on this episode. Next week, we'll probably have Mossy, if I can get Mossy on, which means we'll probably be talking about Star Wars. So keep a lookout, see what next week's episode going to be. I might leave a hint inside the Discord. Anyhow, if you want to hit us up for any work related things, interview requests or possible guest appearance on the show, hit us up on our email, podcastraw@gmail.com. We will answer and work out the details there. Or if you feel more comfortable doing it in Discord, just hit me a private chat in Discord and we'll talk there. And I'll pull Archon in and we can have a discussion. Thank you for joining us today, and y'all stay nerdy.
Guys.